Hello, welcome to the Powerful Introvert Podcast. I'm here today with Jeannette Cieszykowski. Jeannette is a personal life strategist. She helps high-level entrepreneurs create successful personal lives so their businesses can thrive effortlessly. But unlike traditional personal development experts who focus solely on mindset, Jeannette integrates external energy, our environment, habits, and space into that success equation. She has 11 years of Feng Shui experience and 4 years working with top entrepreneurs, and she's helped over 100 business owners break through plateaus and reignite their passions by creating the energy they need to scale without burnout. Welcome, Jeannette. So glad to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
You're doing very interesting work and helping people. Could you tell me a bit about your background and how someone growing up in the West, what first drew you to this kind of work?
Sure. It's a wildly unsexy story. I have a master's in landscape architecture, and Feng Shui originated by studying the landforms, studying where mountains, water, how the wind traverses the landscaping. And so in my getting that degree, I stumbled across this thing called Feng Shui. And the Western side of it, we have Google. And so I start Googling Feng Shui, and what comes up is all of the Western interpretations. I was intrigued by studying the landforms and how it can help us feel our best and attract good luck, for lack of a better word. And then as I'm Googling, it puts it in less mystical terms like have more love, make more money. And I was like, sure, I'll take a bunch of boyfriends, a lot of money, bring it all, let's try it. So I came across it because I was studying the ancient ways and then started using it in the more Western terms. And so that's how it started from school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who doesn't want those things?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of have these two halves. There's things that are practical that people have obviously been deriving tremendous benefit from them for years, and they've found practical application in the West in disciplines of design and landscape architecture. And then you have sort of the esoteric side on the other, which the West would kind of like to forget about. It's working, but we don't want to really dig into why it's working. So how do you approach the Eastern side, or just some of the roots of that, and how do you think about bridging those two sides?
Yeah, there's not a very good bridge in starting this. So my professional life went from landscape architecture to lighting sales to then having this business. And I was doing Feng Shui by trial and error for fun, for family, for friends for that whole time. Because it was always just this passion of continuing to figure it out. And there'd be times it worked, there'd be times it didn't work. And then when I made this a business, or went into this because of a business, because when you Feng Shui, your life becomes very serendipitous. One thing will lead to the obvious next thing will lead, it's very easy to release control and just see how life unfolds, which is very fun. So anyway, all of this, of course, it does, leads to me starting this Feng Shui business. And I realized as I'm teaching it to people or quote unquote selling it, that there isn't a bridge. And I think that's why my work with it is different. How do you make sense of it all is a lot of listening to your gut and intuition and understanding energy for what it is and what modern stuff is. I feel like it's actually your question is really deep.
So maybe I jumped ahead. Would it be easier to take a step back and maybe just start with some basic definitions? Like, what is Feng Shui?
So Feng Shui in the ancient sense is the study of how your environment affects you. Feng Shui translated as wind and water. So it is this very broad thing. But now in modern days, we have stuff. Everyone has a house. There's a lot of structure, stuff in our house. People think it's about decluttering and people think it's about their stuff. But really that true core of it is what is the energy. And so what I try to express to people is it's not so much about your stuff, and it's about how everything is energy. And when you move your stuff, the energy shifts. So when you give your space attention with intention, which is this clear idea of what you want for your life, and when you move your stuff and you give that energy of that intention into your space, the energy in your environment shifts. I know we talked about this, what's level 1, what's level 2. That level 1 is where do I put the plant? How do I balance the elements? Those are the basics. That's how it gets you in. But the true meaning of Feng Shui and what is Feng Shui is, what is this energy that's happening around us? Just like gravity is happening all the time, we have this Feng Shui that's happening all the time. And how can we use it to our advantage? The way I help people use it is to become the best versions of themselves. So yeah, you caught me on a deep day. It's a deep question.
Yeah. Well, it strikes me that from the Western perspective and scientific perspective, everything is energy. We have some basis for agreement here, and there's all kinds of other forces like gravity, light, electromagnetism, which are flowing. We have very little sense of exactly how it's working. We might look at it in a lab, but these are all impacting us. Cell waves, Wi-Fi, there's
exactly.
all these forces. And then if you're sensitive, if you're attuned to your environment, then you do notice the way you feel when you walk into a room. And if you had this experience of changing things around or moving things around, you know intuitively when you walk into a room that's calming and serene. And you know intuitively when you go into a room and like, I got to get out of here. This is too chaotic and that sort of thing. Maybe that's a little bit of a bridge for that first level. So maybe we could start there working with the client. They really haven't experienced this before. Where do you start with them?
Just for your listeners, even to start, as they're listening to this and they look around their space, hopefully they're not driving. But like they're looking around their office as they're listening to this. And yeah, there's a reason people are drawn to what they're drawn to or why a space feels good to certain people. A fun place to start is discovering which element you are. So everybody based on their birthday has a personal element, speaking of energy. In Feng Shui, we balance fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. I'm personally an earth. Based on your birthday, you might be a wood. Based on your plants being behind you and you being drawn to plants, my guess is you might be a personal energy number 3 or 4, meaning you like the wood. So woods are dead giveaways. They love teals, plants, blues, greens, like a lot of white, simplicity. They loved this whole minimalist modern era. And that's a first place to start. If your place feels off, how can I add in some of these elements that support my personal energy? Those links are in any of my social media things. But even before that, if you don't want to find that out, observing your space and what's around you. Visual clutter is mental clutter, right? Or half-done projects shows that maybe you have a difficulty being decisive. So just all of the stuff, not only is it all energy, but it's all cues of, oh yeah, like my external is representing my internal right now. There's a lot going on, and actually adjusting your external space can help you feel better.
And then when you know which element you are, and by the way, I've never looked into that, and that's absolutely dead on. All those things you said, they're all true for me, those colors and environments and things. When you know that, what can you do with that knowledge?
Yeah, so for you, if you are the wood element, and if you have a tendency to feel like so many creative ideas, so many ideas going on, and there's just so much growth that there's no executing on any of it, you want to balance that cycle. So you add in some water, which is the color black or actual water, and you can add in fire. So that if everybody can picture a circle with fire at the top, fire feeds earth, earth feeds metal, feeds water, feeds wood, right? We want that to be as holistic as possible. So when you have a balance of all those, you feel balanced in your space.
Got it. So you might bring in elements into your life or into your home, decorative or functional, that complement you and achieve this kind of balance.
Yeah. I had a client who was really struggling. It was one of these more severe cases where she was coming to me because she just was going through deep depression. She was like, to be quite frank, I don't want to wake up in the morning. Like, I just don't feel good. And I don't know why. I want my space to feel like a sanctuary. I want it to feel better. I just am struggling a lot. And so we walk through her home. Her personal energy number was 1, so she was water. As we walk around her home, she has a lot of earth. So we're missing that metal, a lot of earth, and earth muddies water. She also had a ton of plants, which water gives to wood. And so not only is she giving a lot of her energy, which she was expressing, I feel like I'm taking care of everybody. Nothing is supporting me. I'm feeling overwhelmed. That earth is muddying her. She's feeling overwhelmed. And that wood, she's just giving. Also, the picture she looked at when she wakes up. So this is something for your listeners to note as well. When she woke up every day, she was very wealthy and she had this very expensive piece of art. But as we know, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you have good taste, right? And we look at this piece of art that she wakes up to, and it's this nice in theory. It's this older woman hunched over. It's about expressing how no matter what age you are, your body's beautiful. But the woman looked not happy. So imagine waking up every day seeing this like old hunched over woman. That imagery is not the most lively. And then your whole space is you giving and energy taking. So we removed the picture that she was looking at, and then we added in more metal to support her water, and we added in more water so she felt more like herself. And we removed a lot of plants or just trimmed them back, like they had become very overgrown. Within 2 weeks, this was not the goal. The goal wasn't to get off any medication or anything. We don't have any opinions about that. She just wrote me like 4 weeks later and she's, what, the last 2 weeks, I just haven't been taking my depression medicine. I haven't been taking my anxious medicine. I've joined this club, and 2 years later now, she just bought into 3 franchises for this new business, and she's like starting hobbies, and she's in improv and starting businesses. And so when the energy in your space feels this wholeness and balance, you can feel more focused, more yourself, less deprived of that support, which I think a lot of leaders, your listeners, probably feel like, is anybody listening to me or supporting me? I feel like I'm giving to everybody else. And so your space can help you recharge and help you feel your best and show up your best.
That's a great story, a great turnaround. I'm just curious, just as a side, that just because I've thought about it, is there anything that Feng Shui has to say about smartphones? Because it just strikes me that it's such a source of mental clutter and a drain of energy. So you might get your life going in the right direction in your environment, but then if you're stuck in your smartphone, then it could counterbalance that.
Yeah, it's actually very funny you say that. My Instagram post today, 2 hours ago, was about phones. I would say that because I really try to be respectful of the ancient art that is Feng Shui, I personally grapple a little bit with and all the modern tech stuff. Like somebody the other day was like, can you Feng Shui your desktop? And I was like, let's just call it like sorting out your internet life. It's not necessarily Feng Shuiing that, but I get where you're going with it. I see it as if you really enjoyed your space and you felt really good in your space and you felt recharged by your space, you would be less drawn to your phone. I work with a lot of CEOs, a lot of business people who they're already like go-getters, workaholics anyway, but they don't want to come home because their space doesn't feel good. They know business. They know how to operate in a business. That's second nature to them. That's where they're comfortable. They don't know how to like organize their house, decorate their house, make it feel good. So then they just stay at the office all day. So the phone, on one layer, it is just a habit. We have to unlearn picking up our phone so much. But I would argue that if there are certain places in your homes that just feels really good to read a book or to meditate, that you would be more comfortable being like, I'm not interested in my phone.
Got it. So phone is more of a symptom than a cause of anything.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Or there's a way that your home can help you get off the phone.
Help you kick the habit.
Yeah, help you kick the habit. Because it really is. That was what my post was about, is I gave 3 examples of how I was catching up with friends in different scenarios or after pickleball. And I'd literally be talking, or we'd be having this deep conversation and the person would pick up their phone. And the funniest one is I was catching up with a friend of mine. I've known him for 15 years. I hadn't seen him for 2. We're eating. And he like picks up his phone to check a text. And then just out of this weird phone trance habit, he opens a dating app and starts swiping. And I was like, dude. And he like came out of this stupor. Like, I think it's so ingrained in people to just click to the next app and the next app and the next app. And so in that terms, it's like, that's just a habit. You got to stop.
Yeah. But maybe the sourcing of energy elsewhere gives you energy to overcome it, overwhelm it.
Yeah. When you, like I said, when you give
hope.
Your space attention with intention, I think a lot of the reason people lose focus is because they are not clear on where they want to go. Who do you want to be a leader to? Why are you a leader in this, to your listeners, right? Why do you want to be a leader? What is it that you're looking to change? And then where do you want to be in 4 months? Like in these quarters, have these goals you check in on. There is a layer to this Feng Shui process that when your space is surrounded or has everywhere things that remind you of your intentions, It's very easy to say, I'm not going to go randomly scroll on my phone because my goals are everywhere. I can see who I want to become. I'm reminded of how far I want to go. And yes, your space helps you like stay on track.
So you're working with business professionals and it starts out with their personal life. Do you also work with them on the spaces of their business?
Yeah, I do. And I've had a wide variety, I guess. Sometimes it's even like the warehouse where events are held. Sometimes it's boutique shops, but we even do that. It's a little bit different, right? Because I help people create successful personal lives, because when people's personal lives are crumbling, eventually it affects your leadership. Maybe you can get by for a little bit, but eventually it affects it. Or you get all the way to the top and you hate your life. You're completely unfulfilled. The business side, doing businesses, is yes, we can absolutely feng shui to make sure that like customers keep wanting to come back. Is your out section in an area that promotes cash flow and money flow? And is it easy for people to come in and enjoy the space and really have that good energy circulating? It's feng shui. I like to call it acupuncture for the space. So if any of your listeners get acupuncture, in traditional Chinese medicine terms, they poke and prod different areas to keep the qi flow in your body. Well, feng shui is like poking and prodding different areas of your home or business to keep that qi flowing in your space. Both breathe life into you and breathe life into your space.
So we talked about helping business professionals, working with them on their personal lives. Do you find that people come to you as a first step, or have they done other types of work? Like someone has done some therapy or some other modality, and then they come to you. Where are people on the journey, or does it vary?
It's never first. It varies, but it's never first. It depends how. I like to think that I'm like this nice middle ground. I meet a lot of corporate people who are not very woo-woo yet. Feng shui might come sooner in a person's journey, right? They're already like very esoteric and doing tarot cards, and feng shui is like a natural next step for them. I have come from corporate, been in corporate. I personally like practical terms. It's like, how are we making all of this energy stuff more practical? And for those people, yeah, they've tried therapy. Maybe they've gone on a retreat or two and it's just not happening, because your environment matters. And imagine trying to become somebody new in a space that reflects an old version of you. Or imagine trying to really rest and sleep well and like recharge, and your bedroom's just a shit show, you know? Or just that's like the funny way of thinking it's cluttered, but there is an energetic layer that most people don't see. I have an example for you. A woman who purchased feng shui for herself, a feng shui session for her 50th birthday. She's very high up in a corporate company. She's very high up in what she does. And she has never been married, never had kids by choice. She's just, you know what? I've done a lot of things. I've tried a lot of things, but I just feel like something's off in my house. I just feel like this is the natural next step. And I'm like, great, tell me what you're going through. And she's like, things just feel stagnant. Yeah, life's fine. I'm climbing the corporate ladder to a certain degree. I like my job. My relationships with my family are fine. Yeah, health could be better. More money is always great. Everything's just fine. But like, I haven't had a good night's sleep in years and blah, blah, blah. So what we do is we feng shui, and it's like getting an astrology reading for your house. Based on when it was built and the direction it's facing, it has this chart, okay? So her bedroom was in a room that was meant for working in, and her office was in a room that was meant for sleeping in terms of the energy that we saw. She switched her bedroom and her office, and the next day she said, I had my first full night's sleep since living in this apartment for 15 years. She's also someone I've worked with now for 2 years. We do like annual check-ins. Over these years, she paid off $100,000 of her MBA debt. She has been getting invited to these unique opportunities for leaders, like one of 50 out of thousands of people in the company, to go to these conventions and things like that. So she's being recognized. She's being given benefits, bonuses, raises for her work. People in rooms that she's not in are speaking positively about her. Now also she's sleeping and resting for the first time in years. And what's very cool is here we are 2 years later, and now she's actually engaged, and we are feng shuiing her fiance's house because she's getting ready to move in with him, which I think is just really cool for people, especially in their 50s, who are maybe in this, do I have another 50 years of this? Is this just it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just I get decent, mediocre sleep, if any, work is work, it's pretty stagnant. But when you use the energy in your space, opportunities come to you faster, things that you don't even plan for, right? She didn't say I want a husband. She was like accepting of the fact that maybe that just wasn't going to happen for her. Paying off her student loans was like in her 10-year plan. She didn't realize she could be debt free in 2. But she was like, these things just, bonuses just came and these just came. She didn't think that she would be the one getting to speak on boards or getting to speak in these important rooms, right? Because most of us can't even dream that big. We're just stuck in our next steps. I think I went on a tangent from your first question, but yeah, using the energy gets you not just where you want to go faster, it'll get you to places you didn't even know you could get to.
The story makes me very happy for her. And I believe that's just all very common. You get stuck going in a direction maybe for years and you're wondering, will anything ever change? And this has the potential to put you on a path energetically to make a really different set of outcomes possible. I also want to go back to the woo-woo journey.
Yeah. It was where does it happen in people's journeys? That's what it was. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I get so excited about this stuff. So usually it is not the first thing that people think of.
Well, I'm thinking in my mind, where am I on my woo-woo journey? I'll have to figure out how to say that
do you
really
know?
well.
Do you lean one way or the other?
Well, for sure, I'm on a path of woo. I've gotten into meditation and just reading more and more spiritual kinds of books. But, I haven't stopped at the feng shui. Maybe that tells you where I am on the map.
It's way more practical. Like, I would say it's way less woo than people think. Like, Singapore is built on feng shui. Like, Hong Kong's designed on feng shui. This is something that empires and past, they didn't call it governments, but emperors built their cities. That's that macro version of feng shui. What is the layout? And back then it was a little bit more abused as the people in power used it the most and kind of kept it from people. But now every business person in those countries are using it to their advantage. And, to stay neutral, our current president has been quoted. He uses feng shui. He's like, I don't understand how it works, but it makes me money. And then probably some of it too comes from him being in real estate, right? He worked with a lot of international people, but it's not as woo-woo as people think. And sometimes it's just one of those things that like, it can only make your life better. Just like meditating can only make your life better, right? Nothing bad comes from meditating. So why not set up your space to support your success and just see what happens?
Absolutely. My mind is completely open to this now.
Moved you on the woo scale.
So yeah, I've bumped a notch. No, but I'm definitely much more open to these things than I was ever was in the past. So let's go further down. We talked about the levels of feng shui, and I think you touched on the first level in looking around your space. Where do we go from there? Level 2.
A good place to start is when you walk in the door that you enter your house. So I don't even want to say your front door because most people walk in like through their garage, right? What's that space like when you leave for work and come in for work? Or you leave your house and come into your house? What is the space when you wake up? What's the stuff you see? And then your desk. These are 3 really important areas. When you're sitting at your desk, what is it that you're looking at? And if we go back to my first client example of when she woke up, she was seeing this artwork that was beautiful in its own right, but the intention, right? The meaning behind it was not helpful for who she wanted to be and where she wanted to go. If people are feeling confused, lost, lonely, look at that artwork in your house, like when you're working, when you're sleeping. Do you have a lot of stuff that's just subliminally perpetuating those stories? Fun exercises when you dream, right? When you dream, that's your subconscious running. And when you dream in images, have you ever had that dream where your teeth are falling out or a tooth falls out?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay. It is recorded as the most popular, most common dream because it's associated with stress and most people are stressed out. So somebody at some point in their life has had a dream where like they're having teeth problems or their teeth are falling out. And when you dream of that, you're not dreaming in words, right? It's in images. You're not seeing the words, my teeth are falling out. So our subconscious speaks in images. So what you're surrounded by and looking at every single day is speaking to your subconscious. So that's a good place to start. Like a level 1 is when you want to make space to receive. Obviously, clutter, no good. Visual clutter is mental clutter, but that's boring. Nobody wants to start with the decluttering. So then you look at what's the artwork and images you have around you. And also, when is the last time you looked at it? Some people they're funny. They have pictures in their bedroom of like friends, and like friends they're not even friends with anymore. First of all, take friends out of the bedroom. And 2, like these pictures you have in your house, are you friends with these people still? And then in your office, what are you looking at? Is there anything in there that helps you feel important, that helps you feel like the leader you're trying to be? It was very interesting when we first started 2020 and news was in Zooms and like we were in everybody's house, like all these news anchors were in their house. I was sitting there looking, well, I don't watch the news, but I was like looking at people's backgrounds, like in clips and stuff. And it's, wow, you need to clean that up. Not just clean it up, you need to personalize that more, just like you dress to impress. We make first impressions. Your background now makes first impressions. So as you're sitting there and working, to your listeners, as you're sitting and working, what is it that you see? When you go to sleep and wake up, what's the first thing? And when you go in and out of your house, what are the first things that you see? And are those things uplifting, empowering? Are they representative of the intention you want for your life?
That's something that, I've felt intuitively over the years, and I definitely credit my wife for that. We're always we're moving things around and trying different things. And I definitely notice very much how the way, not just clutter, but just the way different colors in the rooms or different artwork makes me feel, not wanting a negative thing. We have an image of a set of clowns, and they're a little disturbing to me. So we just have to make sure they're, I said, well, let's maybe not in the bathroom, we can find another place for it.
Right. And then on a deeper layer, Feng Shui in itself is studying those energies based on when your house was built and the direction it's facing. There could be a room in your house that's better for you to be working in, where you get more done with less effort, you're more in flow state, you make more money. Many people have had the experience where they live in a house or an apartment and they have things going for them, or right, like things are going well. And then they move and all of a sudden this bad luck happens, or vice versa. Life's not going great and you're like, I just got to get out of here. I need a fresh start. And you move somewhere else and things start going your way. You're like, wow, once I moved into this house, I started making a lot of money. I met my soulmate. I lost 10 pounds out of nowhere. Your house has a personality, and there's certain rooms that are better for sleeping, for working, for lounging. And even if, to give another client example, even if you just live in one room. I had a woman who, she had a bunch of roommates in New York. She was young and she was like, I can't do the whole apartment, but I can just do my room. But I've been applying for jobs for 7 months. 7 months I have been going out there. I've been applying. I'm like actually applying, not like these people that say they're applying. Like she really was putting resumes out every day for 7 months. And we feng shuied just her room by putting her desk in a different orientation, putting the right elements in the certain directions, like north, south, east, west. 7 days later, she had signed a contract and had a job. So it's also like for the people who heard me say, oh, my bedroom's the only room it can go in and my office is the only office it can go in. It doesn't matter how big or small your space is. We can still optimize it for your life to be easier and for you to be more successful and for you to feel more fulfilled.
I have a bit of a practical question. So you're in Cleveland, correct? Do you work with people all over the world, I presume, entrepreneurs? Do you always need to be on site, or how does that actually work? Can you feng shui remotely?
Yeah. So at first I was curious, how's this going to happen? But I started this business in 2020. So we figured it out real quick. The unique skill set I have is I come from architecture and design. I can look even through a Zoom video and see if your king size bed can be rotated. Like I just have very good depth perception and size and stuff. But thanks to modern technology, like Google Maps helps a lot. There's a lot I can see with the landscape. People send videos. So yes, it can absolutely happen virtually. I think have yet to have a client in Cleveland. I still go back to Texas a lot. And sometimes if people want me there, if their house is really large, they'll fly me to them. But I would say majority is just virtual. Yeah, through videos and Google Earth and a lot of cool tools on the internet.
Modern technology.
Yeah, we can absolutely feng shui virtually.
That's cool. And then, so what's the next level? So we've kind of rotated the rooms and that sort of thing. We've chosen the most energetically favorable rooms for your well-being and prosperity and all those things. How do we take that to the next level?
Well, that's kind of the peak, right? If we have made space to receive, declutter, given our space attention with intention, and by intention, I guess that's the same layer as looking at what's the actual feng shui for this specific house. And so the office is in the right room, the bedroom's in the right room, the orientation of the spatial arrangement is all flowing optimally. That's really where it sits. And then every year there is different energy that comes in. Like we have Year of the Dragon, Year of the Snake. Those bring different elements. They bring different energies for the year. That doesn't require anything permanent. That is where we just move some metal here, fire here, water here to have a smooth year. Level 10 is like building a house from scratch with feng shui.
Nice.
Yeah. Which can be daunting because there's no such thing as perfect feng shui. Like even if you build the house from scratch, unless you can put an ocean in front of your house and a mountain behind every house, and there's no such thing as perfect feng shui, but it's good to design your house. Why not? Why wouldn't, start that way as a base for long-term.
Yeah. So, and then I would imagine you still have to make adjustments because things are constantly in flux. Things are different yearly. You're different, and
yeah, there's the macro feng shui, which is like what is the land, and that will set. So the original feng shui I said was studying landforms, and it was for are we going to bury our ancestors for ancestral luck. So that's like long term, right? We want our ancestors to be giving us with luck and happiness and supporting us in wherever they're at. So there is this macro of, is the house set up on long-term success? Then they have these different cycles, which is, am I living in this house for the next 10 years? The next 10 years, I'm building my business. We don't have to reshape the house for that. Like basics you set in place. There's basic colors, basic furniture. A misconception is a lot of people think that feng shui requires renovation or redecorating, in the sense that like they're painting things and buying a lot of things. But I actually, in the first 60 days, I always say, let's just repurpose and reposition what you already have. Most people have enough stuff that they can just shop their own house. And so I definitely don't want anybody to think that it's always changing or like always like their decor and everything. There's little things you tweak for the year. Yeah, you can. Some people, like people in Hong Kong, they just think in terms of 20 years, right? These businessmen are like, they know that, especially like in the tech world, they think in 10-year cycles. They don't think this year. They're like, I expect to be in debt for the next 10 years and build this thing. And so they're just like, what long term? I know there's going to be some hiccups along the way, but what long term are we setting up for? But then to your point, people change. There's different goals that change. And that's why on a more micro level, I help people like every year. What are your goals? How are we having your house help you stay on track?
Yeah, there's definitely some great lessons in that, just to be thinking more long term. I think that's one of the biggest liabilities on the Western side, is thinking in such short-term increments. It's hard to make progress if you're always dealing with what's in front of you and not thinking longer term.
Yeah, it's like, who do I ultimately want to be and where can I be in 5 years? And we could go full circle to the phone habit. So how is me picking up my phone every 5 minutes helping me get closer to this goal?
Not one bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know you have a framework, a 3R framework. Would you mind sharing about that?
Sure. It's reframe, rearrange, reinvigorate. We talk a lot about feng shui because it is such a unique topic. I don't think you hear it talked about this way a lot. I personally share it as a personal development tool. I don't use it for decor per se. If somebody came to me and wanted to redecorate their house, I'd say maybe a different feng shui person's better for you. I'm more like, how can we set up your space and use it as a personal development tool to help you succeed and become the best version of yourself? It's not making your house Pinterest perfect. It's about helping you feel your best. Good looking house is subjective. And so what I realized is that like a lot of people put so much pressure on the objects and the feng shui itself. And then they'd be like, how come I haven't gotten a raise? Or how come I haven't fallen in love yet? Or how come I haven't lost the weight? And that's where the reframe and the reinvigorate came in. Rearrange is that feng shui part. But you also have to take aligned action, right? So if we use applying for a job or keeping a job or getting a raise as an example, yeah, we're going to feng shui your house and you will have more clarity. You will have more creative ideas. You will have more energy to execute on the things you have to execute so that your boss sees you or so that you get the promotion. But you have to take the action, which is the reinvigorate. You have to put the phone away and do things however it's supposed to be done to get you to the next step. And then the reframe is that mindset part, the emotional intelligence part. What I realized is when I would come into people's homes is they're like, I want to feel better, or I want more money, or I want love. It's why. So we're setting up the space, but why? And then who is ideal you? What is that? What does ideal Greg look like? Who is that? And you're like, I don't know. And most people don't. So when do we slow down to think about these things? And so you need that reframe of, if we're going to give the space attention with intention, what are my intentions for my life? Why do I actually want to partner? Why do I want to make more money? Why do I want to be a leader? I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Motive. Have you read The Motive?
I haven't.
It's very cool. And everyone says, oh, I want to be a leader. I want to be a CEO. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people, right? They're just like, what's the next step? Because I don't want to be middle manager forever. It's a very cool book I just recommend it. But it really shifts this perspective of, oh, wait, maybe I don't want to be a leader per se. And so what are these intentions? So that's the 3R framework: reframe, rearrange, reinvigorate. How am I thinking, feeling, and getting clarity on what I actually want? Now I'm going to set up my space to be an external representation of that. It's going to support me in making new habits, in showing up as my best self. And then the reinvigorate is, I'm going to change some of these habits. I say a lot of things I want, but my actions are not matching up with that. And that's how this framework evolved, because so many people are like, my feng shui doesn't work. I'm like, your feng shui is working. You just aren't getting out there to receive the opportunities that your external environment is presenting to you.
Right. You have to meet it halfway at least.
Yeah, you got to put yourself out, just like dating, right? When you first met your wife, like you have to put yourself out there, and it's a little nerve-wracking. And I'm sure maybe you didn't get rejected, but people get rejected along the way. And then you learn about yourself and you have these serendipitous moments, or like you meet somebody at a party who then introduces you to the new boss, to the new wife, to the new business partner. And so when you're environmental energy, because think about, where do people and opportunities come from? Our environment. So when you've optimized your environmental energy, like just how good ideas come from our like thinking stream, our brain, our higher self. So meditating helps clear our space so we receive those ideas. Feng Shui helps clear space so that you bump into the right people, so that you are seen for the right opportunities. But you need all 3. Yeah.
I can certainly see how this would support someone who is looking to change and looking for additional supports. And I'm really glad that you're out there doing this work. You're clearly helping people on their journey. And I understand you have a YouTube channel as well. Where else can people find out more about you and this work?
Yeah, I would say Instagram's the best form of connection, because you can message me right on there after you listen to this and tell me what you like, what stuck out to you, what questions you have. YouTube, you can't, there's no direct messaging. But if this was intriguing and you're like, I kind of want to dabble in this, that YouTube channel has a lot of fun stuff for your office, for your bedroom that you can apply today. So Instagram and YouTube are great places to start.
All right, we'll start there. I'm intrigued, so count me in there. It was really nice to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining, Jeannette.
Thank you.